Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. Late show tonight. Wasn't planning on doing a show, but that's just how it goes. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about Better Call Saul. So if you like Better Call Saul, make sure you tune in tomorrow night. But tonight, we are in the kitchen talking about some beef. One of the many things we do here, I've got a massive frog in my throat. One of the many things we do here on the channel, in addition to examining history or reviewing things and just like every other nerd on the internet, one of the things we do is we take a look at famous beefs and feuds. And, we've done the Sex Pistols one already. We've talked about The Rock and Vin Diesel. We talked about Johnny Rotten and Marky Ramone at that punk Q&A thing. We've done a whole bunch. We've obviously talked about Glenn and Jerry endlessly. I think that's probably one of the most famous beefs. You have Axl Rose and Slash, right? That's a pretty big one, but that's since been solved or whatever you want to call it. And then you have Glenn and Jerry and the Misfits, and that forever. I mean, if you were into the band at that time, which is, most of us, well, however, there's a whole crop of kids who never experienced that. There's a whole crop of kids who just, to them, the Misfits are always been together, or, oh, they got back together 3 years ago and I just got into them, lucky kids. But there was a many, almost 3 decades of those dudes not ever going to play together again. And we all just sort of accepted that Danzig Doyle shows were going to be the closest thing that we were going to get to a Misfits reunion. It was pretty darn good. It was pretty darn good in terms of what we got. However, those guys buried the hatchet too. This one, I would say, almost rivals the Glenn Danzig, Jerry Only one. And, I want to say that I'm well more studied and well read on the Glenn and Jerry feud because, that's like we do a lot of Misfit stuff. Two things. One, I love the album Age of Quarrel. I respect the Cro-Mags and their place in history and music history and what they did. But they've never been like, some sacred cow. I know that they're incredibly revered. They have this diehard cult following in the same way that the Misfits have a diehard cult following. The Cro-Mags have their own diehard cult following within, the New York hardcore, within hardcore music, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? But it's not a sacred cow to me. I feel more objective. I feel less subjective with the Misfits. I feel much more objective with the Cro-Mags because, like I said, it's just not a sacred cow to me at all. It just is what it is, And I've always just kind of had it in the back of my mind. Should we talk about the Cro-Mags? I don't know. We've had Paris. Paris has been on the show. Paris came on Pizza Punk. Really always very grateful for Paris's time. He's actually got a band called the Agros out, and he's put out 2 killer music videos. So go check out Paris's YouTube channel. It's just Agros. Type in Agros. One of them City Streets, and I forget what the other one is, but really like the music video work that Paris has been doing with that. In any case, that is about Paris being on the channel and having interviewed Paris a long time ago. That is about the extent of Cro-Magdom for me personally. I've read about it, I followed it for sure. I remember when, 10 years ago, that big thing happened. That was like huge, sent waves all across all sorts of communities, but that's really the extent of it. I really just sort of, it's always been in my periphery, but I figured since, by the way, I see all the comments, guys. I see DLW and Lark Bark and Lizzie Graves. I'm trying to stay on task though. Hello to everybody. Oh God, see, I just lost my train of thought. That's the problem. What are we talking about? We're talking about the yeah. I always wanted to do a beef show about this because it's fascinating and it's super complicated. Oh my lord. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a point of view. It's like Rashomon, man, with these guys. It's like, everybody experienced and saw things, in various different ways and has their own spin on it. And it's just really, it's just really, really complicated. But then I saw today there's been a new development in this long-standing age of Quarrel. I can't imagine how many jokes there have been about the age. Oh yeah, the age of Quarrel. Yep, it sure is the age of Quarrel. Get it, because that's the name of their album, and they quarrel. Um, a new milestone in the age of Quarrel occurred. I saw in the news that Harley Flanagan is suing John Joseph. Okay, a little bit of backstory, and this is off the top of my head, and please, anybody correct me. Feel free to jump in and say, no, you got it wrong, blah, blah, blah. Leave something in the comments if I get something wrong. But as I recall, basically, you have the Age of Quarrel lineup is like the classic lineup for the Cro-Mags. That's John Joseph, Harley Flanagan, Doug Holland from Kraut, Mackie Jason on drums, and Paris Mayo on guitar. And that is like sort of like the everybody loves Age of Quarrel. That's like the nucleus of the band, so to speak. And that lineup was really only together for a very, very short period of time. And then after that, you had a variety of overlapping lineups. Like, for instance, John Joseph leaves, and then Harley ends up singing. And so then it's just Harley and Paris. And the nucleus of the music, of the creativity, is Paris and Harley. These two guys came together and they sort of made the stew that is the Cro-Mags in that kind of way. John Joseph, I guess he did write some lyrics. So John Joseph contributed lyrics to certain songs. It's a toss-up. I've seen certain places where it says that John Joseph was the first singer, but then I've seen Paris and other people say Eric Casanova is the first singer of the Cro-Mags. And then Harley did a demo. He did a demo where he was doing all the instruments. That predates everything. I don't know. You can go back and forth. I don't know either which way. So if you really want to do further reading into this, please feel free. This is just a casual overview of the situation, right? So you get these various different lineups happening, and then Paris leaves, and then John Joseph comes back, right? And then they do another album. I think that's the third album, right? So you got, for a while it was Doug Holland and Harley Flanagan, and then alternating between Paris Mayhew and John Joseph. And then Paris finally, no, he came, I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head. So Paris left again. No, Paris left. John Joseph came, and then John Joseph left, and then Paris came back. John Joseph and Paris, as far as I know, they never were together in the band again after Age of Quarrel. Age of Quarrel was the last time that's why that lineup was like so special or something. And yeah, I don't know. So you have all these different lines, and then like the final break, there's like the final break with these guys, I guess, and like the original band or whatever you want to call it, is when Paris and Harley, they finally split in, I think it's 2000 or 2001. They recorded an album that ended up getting called Revenge, but Revenge was actually, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they had another name, which I'm not going to say because I know that like you can't even say it on Facebook, you get in trouble. Let's just put it this way. The name is White, and then Devil. That was the name of a band that featured both Harley and Paris, and they wrote music, and then that evolved back into doing Cro-Mags. And I think that material eventually turned into What's on Revenge, because I don't think there's an album of that stuff. I don't know. And then Paris and Harley split for the final time in 2001, and for a brief moment, John Joseph and Mackie come back, and they are performing under the name Cro-Mags once again. And then that split happens, and then Harley does a thing called Harley's War, and then you have, for many years, for almost a decade and a half, John Joseph is just going out as the Cro-Mags with Mackie on drums, and he's got the dude from Sick of It All and Leeway playing guitar and bass, and they just do. I don't know if they're doing more than, maybe they're just only playing Age of Quarrel, or maybe they're playing more than that. I don't know. And I guess John Joseph, and again, I'm not John Joseph, I'm not any of these guys, by the way. I have to put that out there. I am not, I do not know, or I cannot speak for any of these people. Just want to, just a guy on the internet talking like everybody else. I believe, okay, so John Joseph starts performing as the Cro-Mags with Mackie, and I think it's, why would he do that without like the two guys who wrote like the music, and Harley started using the name, or however that happened, without either one of those guys, is it like really even the Cro-Mags? And that's always a debate. It's the same thing. We have the same thing with the Misfits, right? We always talk about, well, it's not really the Misfits without Glenn. You need Glenn and Jerry for it to be the Misfits, yada yada yada. The people in New York hardcore, they seem to have it's the same thing. It's the same argument. Oh, well, if you don't have this guy and you don't have this guy, then it's not the band. And it goes back to the idea of like, do you have a founding member? Do you have someone who wrote the music? Do you have the person who was the band leader, the band, the artistic direction? And I guess John Joseph was able to do what he did for so long because he was operating under the notion that he was the frontman singer of the band, despite the fact that he didn't really, he wrote lyrics. That was it. Does that give, is that enough? Is he considered a founding member? Is that enough for him to go out and perform those songs, with Mackie, because they represent 2 out of the 5 members of the classic lineup? I don't know. What I do know is that whole time you got Harley. I guess Harley, I don't know how long he was looking to do this, but at a certain point, he took him to court. He took John Joseph and Mackie to court to get the name back. He wanted the name. And you could see him kind of like getting ready for that. He put out an album a solo album just called Harley Flanagan, and it was called Cro-Mag. And I think that was done on purpose because he's trying to establish some sort of ownership over the trademark, because the bottom line is John Joseph on some level has a case, in the sense that Harley Flanagan is performing under all these other names for whatever reason. And John Joseph is using the name Cro-Mags, and that he could then go to court and say, well, even if he is the owner, I'm the one that's been using the mark, and try and, fight Harley in that way, and win that case under those circumstances. How, concrete is that? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Is there any does that make any sense? I don't know. But, there was an incident that happened in 2012, and that solo album I'm talking about, that came out a little bit later after what had happened in 2012. Basically, there was a CBGB festival. The Cro-Mags, John Joseph's Cro-Mags, were playing, and Harley went down with his 2 kids, and he was looking to make peace. So he claims he's looking to make peace. And then again, it turns into a Rashomon. That, what Rashomon is? phenomenal movie by Akira Kurosawa, but it's like everybody has a point of view. It's the same thing with The Last Duel. What's that Ridley Scott movie that just came out? Really good film. I think it's called The Last Duel. Everybody's point of view is shaded a little bit differently than everyone else. And then somewhere in there is the actual truth, the actual unbiased truth of what happened. And depending on how you hear it, you know, if you're asking John Joseph, Harley came into the dressing room to try and, you know, attack him, and he had a knife, and they were able to, a bunch of guys took on Harley and stopped him from doing something with the knife. If you talk to Harley, if you've heard Harley's side of the story, Harley says he goes in there and he's literally jumped. There was some guy waiting behind the door. He got jumped, except here's the thing. Harley Flanagan is a tough motherfucker. I mean, the dude does, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's an instructor with, Renzo Gracie, I think it's called. I mean, the guy is, you know, he's a friggin' mad dog pit bull, dude. Like, you know, he's ferocious, friggin' ferocious. So a bunch of guys go in on him. And even though it was like, whatever, however many guys against one, Harley still manages, or I don't know if it was Harley's knife, it was somebody's knife. Harley manages to stab a dude. He also got stabbed in his leg. It was a mess, you know, and Harley's like, I was fighting for my life. I believe he said that at some point. He was fighting for his life. He really felt like he was going to, you know, something bad was going to happen. And so that's kind of like the whole rigmarole. Then he goes to jail. Harley went to jail for it, or he was locked up at least, and then he had to deal with that. And then he got out, he got remarried, and went back to court and won. He won the lawsuit. And then the whole time, and I never asked him about this personally. I really did try to sort of stay away from that stuff. I never asked Paris when I've chatted with him about this, but like, he's always just once he was out of it, man. It's so it seems. He's like, he's vocal about it. He talks about it. He's like, I don't want anything to do with that. It's like, it's done. He loves, you know, Paris loves chatting with Cro-Mags fans. And, you know, I see people ask him questions all the time. He's always answering stuff and telling things as he remembers them from his perspective, and very logical, sort of factual when he discusses these things. And he's just sort of like, he's got a career doing, he works as a Steadicam operator. He's worked on a ton of shows. He was doing music videos with Drew Stone. Those guys used to do music videos together. He directed music videos, directed that typo negative video that blew up. And now he's got a new project. He was doing a project a long, long time ago. It was going to be called Blood for Papa. That was the name of it. And then what happened was he had oh God, what was it? It wasn't working out. The Blood for Papa wasn't working out. He was having trouble solidifying things in a way that he saw for his vision. I don't know. And then he ended up doing this thing called the Agros, and it's just sort of, it's pretty cool actually. It's, you know, it's instrumental. It's just these long instrumental songs. And you know, he may think that his music it's just instrumental music. He's just doing instrumental music and that's it. Like, it could be played live at a show, but I really feel like you need a visual, like, it's almost like he's scoring this visual element that you find in the music videos. They're not really telling a story or anything, but they're just like, I feel like you need the visual component to really appreciate what he's doing in his new project, the Agros. So he's happy doing his own thing. He's off doing his own thing. And that really just leaves like John. And he did an interview in Noisy, Paris did, where he sets the record straight. If you want to go read what Paris thinks about all this stuff, just go and take a look at that. One thing that was interesting from that interview is that he says that John Joseph came to him. He was like, hey, I want to write a new album. I want to get back together or something. I'm paraphrasing here. It's not word for it. I want to get back together. Let's do something. I am basically saying to Paris, like needing Paris to write more Cro-Mags music. Because one thing that is for certain, and I mean, it's quite obvious that John just wrote some lyrics because those dudes, for whatever reason, because you got to imagine the guy from Sick of It All and Leeway. I mean, they're musicians. Like, why can't they write songs? Why can't they write, songs? By the way, I see all the comments, guys. I'm just trying to get through this. We'll go to the comments. We're going to go back through the comments afterwards. I'm just trying to stay on the straight and narrow here. You would think that those guys would have put out a Cro-Mags album. And I got to tell you, I'd imagine that Harley would have had a much harder time, securing that trademark. I bet you that really bit John Joseph in the butt. Because he's performing live, but he hasn't. I feel like you need to record music. And Harley, who has no problem recording music, he just cranks out songs like they're candy. So he recorded an album. He records his whole solo album, calls it Cro-Mag, and he in 2 seconds he does what John Joseph wasn't able to do for many years. However, John Joseph has another band, and I think he's doing this now. He's got a band that he's had for on and off called Blood Clot, and that had Todd Youth in it. And they're doing something now. But what's interesting, it's like, why didn't you ever do anything when you had the Cro-Mags name? Like, it's just, I don't know. I find that interesting. Maybe he knew on some level that it wasn't, or maybe it had to do with the fact that, like, it was one thing to perform as the Cro-Mags. It would be another thing to try and write music as the Cro-Mags. And when it was something that he hadn't done before, he hadn't written music as the Cro-Mags, he just written lyrics. That's not to say, I'm really diminishing the legitimacy, not legitimacy, the how important lyrics are. I mean, lyrics are a huge component of the music and a song, right? Like, yes, you can have instrumentals, but part of a song is its melody and its lyrics. It can't be understated. So I don't want to take away from the fact that, listen, if you're contributing lyrics, that is contributing to the writing of a song on some level. So yeah, but he said in this article, Paris was like, yeah, John Joseph, he came to me, like we went out, we had some coffee or something. They were somewhere. He's like, I want you to come back. I want you to team up with me as the Cro-Mags. We'll do a new album. And Paris, I guess John Joseph had said some very negative things about Paris. And he was like, look, I'm not doing, Paris had terms and conditions before he'd even consider it. And John Joseph was flabbergasted, and that sort of ended that thing. So Paris has just been happy to do his aggros thing. And he's just been off doing that. And we just talked about that. So now I think that sets the stage for what's happened now. So Harley gets out, he takes him to court, and he fights in the court, and he gets the name back. I mean, it's just one of those long sordid tales of just like people, like these people just cannot get along, like at all. Like none of these guys. Harley doesn't like John Joseph. John Joseph doesn't like Harley. Paris doesn't like Harley. Paris doesn't like John Joseph. John Joseph doesn't like Paris. John Joseph does. Like, they all do not like each other on some level. I don't know where Doug Holland fits into that, but he fits into that, I think, somewhere. Maybe he's more neutral. He's more neutral on the outside or something. Now, Harley in recent years, once he secured, and here's what's interesting too. I think Harley has really sort of seen what can be with Glenn and Jerry. And so around maybe before, definitely before, but especially after 2016, when the Misfits reunited, right? When the Misfits reunited and were playing, these big shows and commanding these huge guarantees. I mean, Harley was opening for him. I saw him open for them at something. And I think Harley just was like, damn, dude, like what are we doing? Why all of us are alive, all of us are functioning, we can all play music, we're all, in good condition. Why aren't we just making loads of money playing Age of Quarrel when we could be? and I'm sure they could get, I mean, that is definitely a hugely high in demand reunion, and there's a lot of money to be made if one's object and goal is to make a lot of money. And for whatever reason, those guys cannot get on the same page in any kind of way. Harley's made some very public attempts. He does it on Facebook or whatever. He always says, I absolutely would extend the olive branch, in the name of Harley says in the name of making all the fans happy, which of course is true, but is really sort of another way of saying, like, we stand to make a lot of money. I'm not saying Harley's in it for the money. I'm not saying any of them are in it for the money. I'm just saying clearly they're not, because if they were, then they would be together playing those shows. But the point is that that's kind of like there's an asterisk above. There's like a little star above above that phrase, making all the fans happy and getting paid really, really well to do so. That kind of thing. And they just can't do it. John Joseph refuses, and John Joseph plays it off like, that he's being, that he wants nothing to do with Harley after what happened in 2012 backstage at the CBGB festival, which brings us, I think that kind of brings us up to date. So Harley does have, his newest version of the Cro-Mags, whatever you want to call it, however you want to call it, Harley's Cro-Mags, the Cro-Mags or Cro-Mags. Harley is the sole trademark holder of the name Cro-Mags. And he has guys, Rocky George, who used to be in the Cro-Mags. He's got this guy, G-Man Sullivan, that dude. He's also in the Cro-Mags. He's got some new guy in the Cro-Mags. And they've been recording. With Steve Zing, Trick or Treat Studios. Steve Zing, engineer and co-producer. I forgot who the other co-producer is. There's somebody else. I think. And just been doing, they did an EP, I think, and now they're doing an album. Lots and lots of stuff. Harley's got a documentary, and now he's out there touring, really doing his, some big touring for the first time, because there was obviously 2020 sort of took everybody for a loop and put everybody on the side. Now, part of the settlement of this lawsuit, and we're going to take a look at all of these things in just a moment. Part of the settlement of that lawsuit for the name Cro-Mags was that John Joseph and Mackie, they still had dates as the Cro-Mags that they were contractually obligated to. And so until those dates were completed, they were legally allowed, the judge ruled that they were legally allowed to perform as Cro-Mags JM for John Joseph and Mackie. It's a really stupid name. I think everybody across the board, I think Harley Flanagan thinks it's a stupid name. I think John Joseph must think it's a stupid name. I think Mackie must think it's a stupid name. And I'm sure Paris must think it's really, really stupid name. But that's what they have to call themselves. Why do they can't call themselves like Cro-Mags Jam, which I know that John Joseph has used in the past? I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just the way it is. But that's what has led to the most recent crop of trouble as the quarrel continues. But first, let us take a quick commercial break for a moment to talk about riotstickers.com, our official sponsor. We're powered by riotstickers.com. If you need shirts, if you need buttons, if you need banners like the one behind me, if you need stickers, especially if you need stickers, vinyl stickers, go to riotstickers.com. Look, they even make bottle cap openers. They do magnets. You can magnetize your face onto something. We love our sponsors at riotstickers.com. They take care of all of our needs to print up t-shirts. They do it up big. So check it out. Link is in the description. Let's watch our little 60-second video before we move on.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. can print on pants, cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
Okay, and we are back. So, a question for all of you who are watching in the audience. And we will attempt. I will give you my answer at the end of the show. But my question to you is this: who do you think would win in a fight, Harley Flanagan or John Joseph? Who would win? I'll tell you who I think would win in a fight at the end of the show. So stick tuned. That was weird to say. Stick around, and we will take a look, as well as we will look at these comments. In the meantime, let's go to the piece that I saw that led me to finally decide to do this this beef episode, this feud episode. This is from blabbermouth.net. They regurgitate. They're like a secondary news source in that they don't usually break stories. They write about the stories after the fact. They do pretty good summaries. This is, it doesn't say who posted it. This is from blabbermouth.net. So we have Cro-Mags. This is from June 7th, 2022. So this just broke today. Cro-Mags founder Harley Flanagan sues John Joseph over New York City show. Cro-Mags founder Harley Flanagan has filed a lawsuit against his former bandmate John Joseph McGowan for allegedly ripping off the group's name. According to the New York Post, which I don't like, a terrible, terrible newspaper. I know Harley doesn't like them either. They really are dreck. So like the news source is not the best. However, Harley has commented on it. As well. So we'll take a look at that. According to the New York Post, the federal trademark infringement lawsuit filed on Monday by Savoya NYC Inc., which is owned by Flanagan, claims that McGowan used the name Cro-Mags Jam in violation of a 2019 settlement agreement giving Flanagan the rights to the Cro-Mags name. So it was just filed today. The suit alleges that McGowan used Cro-Mags Jam to promote an April 23rd benefit concert in the East Village's Tompkins Square Park, causing confusion about who was actually performing according to the filing. So I do remember Harley posted something on his Facebook saying along the lines of, just so everybody knows, I will not be performing. This is not me. This is John Joseph, something like that. He said something like that on his Facebook. Once again, paraphrasing, I am not quoting Harley Flanagan directly. Just want to clarify that. Quote here is, the impermissible phrase Cro-Mags Jam suggests that Mr. Flanagan, the original member of the Cro-Mags, would be conducting a jam session with other musicians, which is obviously not the case, the suit states. This clearly constitutes unfair competition, trademark infringement, and a material breach of the settlement agreement, as it is impermissible use of the plaintiff's Cro-Mags mark, the filing says. All this stuff, man, with the Cro-Mags, with the Misfits, it's so punk rock. You're infringing on my trademark, punk rock. No, I'm just kidding. It is funny though, because these guys are like, you know, they lived on the streets and yada yada yada. Now here they are fighting in court. It's just, you go from street justice to court justice, right? Isn't that ironic in that kind of way? Earlier today, Flanagan shared a screenshot of the so this actually quotes what he wrote on Facebook. Earlier today, Flanagan shared a screenshot of the New York Post article, and he included the following message. When you have fought for something that is yours as hard as I have and spent the kind of money that I have, you have to protect what you own. You can't just walk away from it when people decide to violate the terms. I have to say, I totally agree with that. I 100% agree with that. If you spent money and time and energy and you fought for something in court and that is his IP or whatever you want to call it, or he is the owner of the trademark at this point in time. I mean, you don't do all that without, fighting to protect it. I have no problem fighting for what's mine. This is Harley says this. I have no problem fighting for what's mine. Anybody who knows me knows that. I'm not afraid to do what is right, and I'm not afraid of anyone. So until you've had to fight for something that is yours as hard as I have, you should shut the F up. And the New York Post in particular has always taken every opportunity they can to crap on me and twist the truth. I wonder if that's because the New York Post editor used to have a crush on my wife. Sorry, buddy. F you and your rag of a paper. It is indeed a rag of a paper. I totally agree on that. Flanagan is seeking a permanent injunction. Injunction is fancy court speak for stopping something. You're like legally stopping something. So he's seeking a permanent injunction to stop McGowan from using the trademark in any form. Now, mind you, after that lawsuit, what's funny? After that lawsuit and that he could only use the name Cro-Mags JM, Cro-Mags JM, he started using the name Blood Clot again. So I just assumed that he was like, this is a really lame name. I'm just going to use that other name Blood Clot, which he should have been doing the whole time, to be honest with you. So many for the it's a polarizing situation. Half of the people out there love that Cro-Mags with just John Joseph and Mackie, and the other half don't. And they're like, it's not really the Cro-Mags, yada, yada, yada. It depends on who's a fan of who. If you're a fan of, if you take Harley's side, if you take Paris's side, if you take John Joseph's side, whatever the case, why not just go out as Blood Clot? Why not go out as Blood Clot and play Cro-Mags songs? It's so simple. The answer, and here's the answer to all of these things, including the Misfits, including anything. The answer is very, very simple, actually. The truth of the matter is the Cro-Mags name commands a higher guarantee. With the Cro-Mags name, you're attaching the age of Quarrel. I mean, all that stuff. And so there's a reason why they want to perform as Cro-Mags as opposed to Blood Clot. However, and again, we talk about this topic endlessly, how in the long run, in the big picture kind of way, you're going to be in a better spot if you just take, you're already established, however you were established, whether it was from being in the Misfits or being in the Cro-Mags or whatever band it is, and just going out there and starting under a new name or starting under a name that you have full control over, like Blood Clot. Why not just go out as Blood Clot? You could still perform covers of Cro-Mag songs. As a matter of fact, people will appreciate it more, I think. And certainly your biggest, critics, mainly being your former bandmates like Paris and Harley, will have less stones to throw at you because you're not using the name Cro-Mags, to which they take such umbrage with. And then on top of that, you're releasing Blood Clot music, and now he's finally doing that. And, more power to him. I'm happy for John Joseph. I hope it's a very fruitful and venture for him. And yeah, it's like he's in this situation right now because he should have just done that like after 2002. Just go out as Blood Clot. Blood Clot performs the Age of Quarrel. Like, who cares? Everybody knows what the Age of Quarrel is connected to. Why do you have to use the name Cro-Mags? Well, we know why, because of the guarantees, but still. And what's interesting to me about Harley Flanagan, and again, I don't know the whole story here, but you have to wonder what took so goddamn long. Why did it? And maybe it's resources. Maybe, there's a bunch of reasons why it could be, but it's just like, I feel like I would have such a sense of urgency to lock that down if I had a more legitimate claim. Harley Flanagan clearly has a more legitimate claim to the name Cro-Mags than John Joseph does. And, I think they always fight about who's the original members and who came first and blah, blah, blah. But I think it doesn't really matter whether they're both original, but it's just like, or they're both classic. It's just that Harley has more of a claim to the name than you do. So just use the name Blood Clot and be done with it. Whatever. That side tangent complete. In April 2019, McGowan and Mackie Jason reached an agreement with Flanagan over the rights to the Cro-Mags name. I just want to quickly side note that I saw Mackie. Where did I see Mackie? Out, I think it was at St. Vitus or something. And I chatted with him for a few minutes, and he was just a really, really nice guy. Really nice guy. You know what it was? Him and John Joseph were performing as the Cro-Mags with I Hate God at St. Vitus. That's what it was. Mackie's a really nice guy. I had seen Mackie and John Joseph with Dr. No and Daryl Jennifer billed as the Bad Brains at CBGB's. I didn't know that. I went to go see the Bad Brains. I didn't know that HR wasn't in the band at the time. And when HR isn't playing, neither does Ernie Hudson. His Ernie Hudson's the drummer. That's his brother. So I went there and I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was like, well, who's this white guy? I didn't even know who John Joseph was at the time. And I saw him perform as the Bad Brains, and it was actually really great. It was really great. I understand why people like seeing John Joseph doing Cro-Mag songs. They like the energy that he brings to the stage, whatever it is. As a frontman, I guess. So at the time, it was announced that going forward, McGowan and Jason would perform as the Cro-Mags JM, which is the dumbest name ever, JM. While Flanagan, who came up with that? You have to imagine that was, I mean, was that John Joseph who thought of that? Who thought of that? Cro-Mags Jam. Why not just Cro-Mags Jam? While Flanagan would get to use the Cro-Mags name for his own version of the band. I mean, I would imagine that both John Joseph and Harley would be pissed over that agreement, in that it's just as much brand confusion to have Cro-Mags and Cro-Mags JM. But, what do I know? I don't know. In 2018, Flanagan, who found the Cro-Mags at the age of 14, in 2018, Flanagan, who founded the Cro-Mags at the age of 14 and toured with the band for some 20 years, sued members of the group for allegedly using the Cro-Mags name without his permission, claiming that Cro-Mags was his idea when he formed the band in 1981. Flanagan filed a lawsuit against, so it was actually, he waited until 2018. So almost 16 years that John Joseph was using that name. And Harley hadn't sued him once. Flanagan filed a lawsuit against then the most recent lineup of the group, including McGowan, in part for copyright infringement, saying that he had trademarked the Cro-Mag name for recording in 2010 and for merchandise in 2009, and then again in 2017. So here's the thing, and this is what always happens too. So Harley filed trademarks. So he had been working. Okay, so that answers my own question. He had been actively working to do stuff. I mean, this stuff does take time. It wasn't like I guess he didn't just sit on his butt for 16 years. As early as 7 years later, he started filing trademarks and stuff, or he started trademarking everything. But oh God, what was I just about to say? It's just like, I guess he just had to really, really build his case in order to take on McGowan, because McGowan had just been performing under that name for so long. According to the New York Post, Harley claimed in the lawsuit that the other members of the Cro-Mags took over the band around 2002 when Flanagan's first son was about to be born, and Flanagan had to stop touring to help with the baby. So that's the reason why. He had kids, he had newborn kids, and he was more focused on being a father. In July 2012, Flanagan was arrested in New York City on charges of attacking several members of the Cro-Mags during the CBGB festival. Flanagan, who had been a panelist at one of the event's seminars, allegedly attempted to attend the concert of his former band. At the time, McGowan told the New York Post that he and Flanagan started the band together in the early 80s, but Flanagan continually took all the credit for himself. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know, but I think that's not true. I don't think that John Joseph formed the band with Harley in that kind of way, or at least that's not the way I understand it. But I don't know. But Flanagan continually took all the credit for himself. McGowan claimed that the situation got so bad, Flanagan pocketed every cent from their 1986 tour. That caused me to lose my apartment and to be homeless in 1987, John said. I had lived hand to mouth. In a separate interview with the New York Times, McGowan said that Flanagan has been a negative thorn in the side of this band forever. So that's the screenshot. Well, that's what Harley says, and we already read that part. I think that's it, unless there's a little bit more in this one in the New York Post. Let's see if we can find it. And then we'll go to the comments and wrap this bad boy up. McGowan and another form, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this is from 2012. Let me see here. Let me see what I can find. What's going to become of this? Okay, now here's the thing. Why is Harley suing over this thing? Obviously, we know why, because he said why. He said why. I'm protecting. You got to protect something that you fought for, that kind of way. However, he's kind of forced to, and I'll explain why I think that is in a minute. Let's first look at this. So the reason why the concert in New York City at Tompkins Square Park was a benefit concert, and supposedly caused confusion. We saw that already. The suit filed by a company controlled by founding bassist Harley Flanagan alleges the use. Right. We already read that part. McGowan and another former member of the group, meanwhile, alleged to go under the terms of the deal. But I guess the thing is that deal sort of expired with those dates, and they were not allowed to use the name Cro-Mag JM out after that. And they did. They sure did. Hold on. Let's see. I'm just trying to find. I think there's something else. Yeah, we already read that. After the backstage dust up, this is after in 2012 with the stabbing, McGowan told the Post that Flanagan had been telling people that he planned to attack his former bandmates while maintaining that he was the sole founder of the Cro-Mags. Yeah, I'm sure that's what Harley was doing. He said, I'm planning to attack them. By the way, I'm the sole founder of the Cro-Mags. He tells everybody he founded the band, McGowan said, but we founded the band. I really think, here's the thing too. It's all semantics at the end of the day, but like there comes a time where you like decide, like, it's at this point when something truly begins. In the case of the Misfits, it's when Jerry, Glenn, and Manny get together that really become the Misfits. That's when the band really begins. It doesn't matter if there was a guitar player, Jimmy Battle or Diane D. Piazza before that. They weren't really a band yet. They didn't perform live. And I think it's the same. I think you could say the same for the Cro-Mags in the sense that when Paris and Harley got together and they start writing that music together and forming those songs, and John's contributing those lyrics, that's the band. That's when the band begins. So you can go back and forth about who did this or who did what. Then, but before the April show in Tompkins Square Park, Flanagan's wife, Laura Flanagan wrote a cease and desist letter requesting McGowan not use the name to promote the concert. So how about that? We wish you success with your benefit. If there was ever any interest in Mr. McGowan performing in a charitable benefit with the registrant and the Cro-Mags, that is an opportunity that we would be happy to discuss. The offer has been extended many times in the recent past, the letter says. That's super interesting. And yeah, I mean, he said that a whole bunch. He said that a whole bunch about, extending the olive branch. Here's at the bottom line. Here's what ends up happening. This is what it really comes down to. John Joseph breaks the agreement from 2019 and decides, I'm going to perform with Mackie as the Cro-Mags, or call ourselves the Cro-Mags Jam. He's now calling the bluff of Harley Flanagan. He's putting Harley in a place where now Harley has to sue in order to protect the trademark. Because if Harley doesn't sue, then he's now setting a precedent where John Joseph is just going to keep doing it. He'll just keep doing it. He doesn't want to do it with Harley. Harley's claims that he's willing to do it with John and Mackie and all the rest. But it's not a mutual thing. It's not a mutually agreed upon thing. And therefore, with Harley being in control of the trademark finally, in a way, it's like a carrot. And it's like, look, you want to perform as the Cro-Mags, you got to do it now with me. That's what Harley, through Harley's actions, that's what it's saying, right? Like, I now have the Cro-Mags name. Harley knows that he is going to make more money as the Cro-Mags if he has more Age of Quarrel members in. So, of course, he's going to be open to inviting them, but he's now in control where he can open and close that door. And as opposed to John Joseph just being like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, Harley, but I'm still going to use the Cro-Mags name. So Harley puts a stop to that by having that trademark. So he's created a sense of leverage for himself and those potential future endeavors, should he be able to get everybody on the same page, which has clearly proven to be incredibly difficult to do. Now, let me see if I can find this little thing here. All right, here we go. Found it. So this was recently. This was from a month ago, and this was after the April show. This was after the April show. Hold on. Harley Flanagan lawsuit. Let's see what pops up here. Blabbermouth. This is a different Blabbermouth. This is from a month ago. We're looking for doesn't see classic. That's what we're going to look for real quick. Sorry, everybody. Doesn't see. We'll take a look at the comments in a minute. And I want to hear what everybody thinks. Here we go. Found it. I want to hear what everybody thinks, whether they think that Harley would win in a fight or John Joseph would win in a fight. We're going to find that out in a minute. Let's take a look here. This is the last article we're going to look at. So this is recent. It wasn't posted today, but it's recent enough. So this is from April 14th. So this is before the concert benefit on the 23rd, and possibly after when Laura Flanagan and Harley had written a note saying, hey, stop promoting yourself as Cro-Mags Jam. During an appearance so this says, Harley Flanagan doesn't see the classic Cro-Mags lineup ever reuniting. That ship has kind of sailed. And maybe what Harley's really, expressing here is Harley's expressing the idea that, he's performing as Cro-Mags Jam without me. I mean, it's done. It's done. How am I going to can't reason with him? During an appearance on the Talking Bullocks, the monthly metal podcast hosted by Acid Rain frontman turned stand-up comedian Howard H. Smith, Harley Flanagan, who founded the legendary hardcore band Cro-Mags at the age of 14, was asked if he thinks the classic lineup of the Cro-Mags will ever reunite. He responded as transcribed by blabbermouth.net. He says, nah, really, sadly, I don't. And you know what? For those of you who followed my social BS media and all that, you see that I've been over it for many, many, many years. I've extended the olive branch to all these effing guys a gajillion times. Most recently, I guess they're trying to get live shows put out that included all the original members or all the Age of Quarrel members. He says, I've extended the olive branch to all these effing guys a gazillion times. Even with all the bickering that has gone on back and forth, I've always been willing to talk, and I've always been willing to try and see what everybody could do to effing just make everybody walk away feeling whole on some level. No one's ever going to be happy about anything because everybody's too bitter, everybody's too pissed off, everybody's too old. But I tried, and I effing tried, and I effing tried. And all I really got back was a lot of negativity and hostility and bitterness. And that ship has kind of sailed. I'm always willing to talk because at the end of the day, and I said this to all of them, we have the ability to make so many people happy, AKA make a lot of money. I mean, come on, Harley. That too. Come on, man. To just give them that moment. And if that doesn't matter to you, if you can't get past your own BS for 45 minutes, the first album was only a half hour long. If you can't put your BS aside and get on some sort of platform and play together for 30 minutes and make all these people effing happy, then you know what? Then you really don't deserve those fans. If you can't give them that, they shouldn't give you crap. You don't deserve it. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but me and old JJ, former Cro-Mags frontman John Joseph, we stopped talking crap about each other a long ass time ago. He continued, when the whole settlement ended, that was it. And he's saying a long ass time ago. It's not really a long ass time ago. It's just a couple of years ago. It's 2019, right? He says, when the whole settlement ended, that was it, man. We effing let it go. That was part of our agreement. It was like, this crap, when the smoke settles, it's done. Let's move on with our lives. Leave me out of the press. I'll leave you out of the press. I'll only ever say something that's true or something that's nice or funny or whatever. Now, I have to say, in general, that's the way it should kind of always be, with exceptions, obviously. I think for the most part, you should always just say something nice or true, as long as it's positive about other people. There's no reason to say mean crap about anybody unless you're Dr. Chud. Harley says, I'm just done. I'm done. And I asked the same of everybody. I'm like, who wants to get on stage and play with somebody who's actively crapping on them, actively wiping their butt with their face every time they open their mouth? I'm supposed to get up on stage with you when you just talked all kinds of BS. And I know the history. I actually know the history. And you're going to keep running your mouth, and I'm supposed to get up and look at you without punching your effing teeth down your throat? Fat effing chance. BITCH. Let's have a conversation like two mother effing men. I ain't trying to prove. Look, I'm not a bully. I'm a mother effing grown ass man, Flanagan added. I don't give an F. I don't need to intimidate anybody with my toughness and crap like that. I've kicked enough asses in my time. I don't care. But if these mother effers ever wanted to have a conversation, we could have a conversation. But just let it be known, it cost me mother effing over $250K in my legal entanglements just to effing get the crap locked down that I owned. That whole effing legal BS was just to get those dudes to stop playing under a trademark that they didn't actually own. I own the trademark. In 2019, Flanagan reached a settlement with Joseph and drummer Mackie Jason regarding the ownership of the Cro-Mags name. Flanagan is now performing under the Cro-Mags name, while Joseph and Jason are performing as Cro-Mags JM. I mean, some of these articles don't really some of these articles don't really what's it called? They don't really illustrate the reality that I don't think they can perform under Cro-Mags Jam. I think that was just for some shows. Again, I don't know. Someone please clarify that for me. I'm pretty sure that was the case. In 2018, we already know this. They used name without permission. Blah, 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 blah. 2010, trademarked this. 2009. This is just going over the history. The history of Cro-Mags is history of the Cro-Mags is integral to hardcore. Blah, blah, blah. We know this. We know this. We know this. Oh, here's something that sort of explains it. So by 80, okay, so according to Blabbermouth, by 82 or 83, Flanagan had written and recorded the very first Cro-Mags demos, consisting of 4 songs that would become the blueprint for the debut album, The Age of Quarrel. He wrote all of the music, playing each instrument, and sang. Before long, he connected with Paris Mayo, and the two started writing music and auditioning band members. So then that's when I think the Cro-Mags really begins. When the two of them get together and they find, because Harley's not writing riffs, he's not writing guitar riffs, right? He's writing the bass stuff, or maybe he's writing the structure, and then Paris is bringing in guitar stuff. It's not either or. It's all together. And I feel like we just shared a lot of here. One last thing I'm going to suggest. I'm not going to read this now because it's really long. It's really long. But if you want another perspective on this whole matter, I'm going to put the article that Paris, the interview that Paris did for Noisy by Vice in the comments. And that's Harris's point of view on everything. And it's very, very detailed. It's very meticulous, and it's a very long read. We'll be here for a whole, another 2 hours if we sit and read this. But check it out. I just put the link in the comments to that. So now we've covered all our bases, I think. Did that load properly? I think it did. Yes, it did. Okay. All right, let's go to the comments before we say goodnight. Hold on. Damn. Did I just come back? I hope I came back. Oh, there I am. Woo! That is really annoying when that happens. There we go. Okay. We're back. We're back in business. Sorry, guys. If ever that should happen, you just got to give it a second. That's my fault. I think we lost some comments here. I can't see all the comments. The first comment, damn, we lost comments. Okay, the first comment I have here is from Chris Vernon. What's going on? We're talking Cro-Mags, man. So this says Paris helped write Alpha and Omega, but did not play on it. Okay. Yeah, we talked about the demo, Tyler. Thank you very much. Talked about the demo here. What else we got going on? It's not mutual because allegedly Harley has monetarily cashed in and screwed those guys in the past, so we'll never know. Writing credits on the albums are kind of sketchy too. Okay. We've got Harley's Cro-Mags, we have Blood Clot, and we have Paris's Agros. We'll never have a reunion. We just have to have what we have by what is put out musically. So it's kind of up to us to just take in what we can and come up with our own conclusions at this point. Oh, here's more comments. Lark Bark was just thinking about the Cro-Mags. Zippy thought that the lawsuit was already settled with JJ getting the right to call his version. Nope, no, it's gotten more. John of Doom says, I just saw John Joseph on 2nd Avenue a couple weeks ago giving a tour to tourists, even though he lives in Florida now. When did he move to Florida? I didn't know they moved to Florida. That's so funny. That dude moved to Florida? That's hilarious. I mean, I thought that dude was like a loyal New Yorker type of guy. I guess he's still doing his tours. I don't know, man. Maybe he flies up to do the tours. And John Doom also says that the Organic Grill reopened on West 3rd. Food is amazing, but a bit expensive. Is that like a vegan style place? All those dudes are either vegan or vegetarian. Paris is vegan. We all know that John Joseph is vegan, and I think Harley's vegetarian. Although Paris and Harley are just like live their lives, and John Joseph takes every second of every day to, shame anybody who eats meat or doesn't eat vegan. I agree. I don't know why bands can't just put their differences and egos aside. It's such a pity. I mean, there's turmoil, man. There's history and turmoil. It's hard. It's such a weird thing because you can have chemistry with someone. I have heard Paris say this, how hard it is to have chemistry with someone that you don't always get along with or that you constantly are butting heads with, but you have great chemistry. And it's like, what do? Do you just give up that chemistry and the greatness that you're capable of because you just can't, figure it out? I don't know. What are my top 3 Cro-Mags songs? I don't know if I have 3. I think We Gotta Know is probably my favorite one. I really like that song a lot. That's a good one. That's a really, really good one. 2 more Cro-Mags songs. I'm trying to think. Streets of Justice. Is there a song called Streets of Justice? I think so. Trying to think of one more. I mean, any time that I've listened to that album, it's just straight down, like all the way through. Amy likes the Alpha Omega album is the best, thinks it's the best. Both Harley Flanagan and John Joseph are really tough dudes. I guess that's why they have many disagreements due to the strong personalities. Maybe it's so nice to see Amy. She was gone for so long, and now she's back in the chats. Glad to have you. Mason says he found a Sam Hain shirt at the swap meet. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Okay, John, I think John is referring to the stabbing here. Both of their recounts of the incident are convincing. I don't think we'll ever know the truth. I don't think we're ever going to know the whole truth either. I think it's just one of those. I mean, it's a shame that there's no security camera in that room that could really tell us. Zach says that Harley would kick John's butt. Harley trained under Renzo, so yeah, he'd kick your ass. I've been hardly quiet a few different times, and yep. Okay. John of Doom says both are in good shape and have martial arts skills, but I think Joseph gets the better of Harley. Really? What's up? We have Archduke Ramon in the house. Poor In Diesel says Harley would win with the BJJ black belt. Amy thinks that Harley would win the fight. Robbie, always say something nice unless it's Chud. And then he says, effing said it as I hit enter. Amazing. Yes, we're on the same wavelength. That is funny. Always say, see, it's a universal thing. Robbie agrees with me. Always say something nice unless it's Chud. Always. Colin says beef is squashed. Thought they were going to tour this year. Yeah, but clearly, I mean, clearly there's a problem because everybody, all of you guys think that they are together. They're not. Harley has his own thing. Hey, Peter, what's up, buddy? We got Peter in the crowd. Haven't seen Peter in a while. Hope you're well. Hope you are well, sir. I am back. That guys, anytime that the show craps out, just hang tight for a second. Sometimes the system reloads and everything's okay. What's up, Jason? Jason's in the house. Tyler says JJ announced his move on Instagram because New York was not what he grew up knowing and just relocated pretty much in a protest of sorts. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, like that's ridiculous. It's like he's one of those guys, you know, he's like he's kind of like an age elitist. Like you can never be better than me, or not better than me. You can never you could never be on my level because you didn't grow up back then, back in the day when the streets were you know, that whole thing. I hate that shit, man. I'll be honest, I hate that shit. Like it's like, so what? So we weren't born yet. So you're gonna crucify us? I mean, whatever, man. Like really. Oh, thank you, Jason. Street Justice is the name. Street Justice. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Lee Joseph is very much into triathlon racing. Yeah, but I don't I think I said wrestling, I meant racing. He might have stamina. I think, okay, I'm going to tell you guys what I think. I think Harley Flanagan would absolutely kick the crap out of John Joseph. That's the honest truth. I think John Joseph has probably incredible stamina, but I don't think he has fighting stamina the way that Harley does. I think Harley, partially because of his background in teaching, but he's just in incredible shape. It's funny. It seems like JJ constantly works and trains to be in the shape that he's in. He's in incredible shape for being a 60-year-old man. I mean, unbelievable. He's in better shape than I am, and I'm half his age. But I just have a feeling. I think even still, Harley Flanagan, he doesn't do anything that JJ does. He's in better shape than JJ. He seems like he would just rip John Joseph in two. That's my own personal opinion. I don't even think it would be a fight. I think Harley would just beat him in 2 seconds. Mason says, dang, I guess you're not stoked about it. I was very excited to tell you because I've never seen it before. Wait, about what? Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you, Tyler. You just don't know what New York really is, bro. Like, it's just so stupid, man. Oh, you Mama Lukes, you don't understand what New York. It's like, all right, man, whatever. Great. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. Very few people would win against Flanagan. Probably nobody in Punk. I mean, he's a fighter, dude. He's a scrapper, Harley Flanagan. John Joseph, it doesn't matter what triathlons that guy runs. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Robbie says, as much as I hate the genericness that New York City is becoming with chain stores, New York City in the 70s and 80s was a disgusting, dangerous city. Screw that. Good point. I mean, I guess it really depends on where you were. I mean, there's pluses and minuses. There's pluses and minuses. I think, it's so funny, like back then there was just so everything that's being done now, it's really hard to stand out today because there's so many people doing the same thing. But back then it was like much easier. It's much easier to stand out as an artist if you're one of the people that are able to do that sort of stuff. And I feel like that's something that New York in the 70s and 80s have in spades that we don't have today. Across the board in the arts. And it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating when you're trying to push up, through everything. We got better technology. We have, although some would argue that, I don't know, it's different, man. It's different. I can't I don't know. I can't say that I wouldn't be stoked to live back then and experience that time in that place if I knew what I had. You know, you could be like my parents. My parents lived in Bed-Stuy, as they call it, and they were right around the corner from all that cool shit happening. And they never, it was right under the nose. They never cared, never went. I was like, my dad was born in 52. So he was like right there. He was totally right there in the city. Could have been going to see like all those bands, and he just simply wasn't into that music. Could care less. Couldn't care less. Chris says Harley would rip his jugular out with his teeth. He really would, though. He really would. Like that. I just don't even think it would be a fight, dude. It wouldn't even be a fight. Fidel says going into CBGBs would be cool as F. I can say that I did go to CBGBs and I saw John Joseph perform with the Cro-Mags. I mean, not the Cro-Mags, with the Bad Brains at CBGBs. I got to go to CBGBs for the last 3 years of its existence. And that was cool, man. That was really cool. My friend's band used to play like audition showcases. So we would go into the city and I saw TSOL there. I got to see some cool stuff there. It was always exciting, even at that time when it was like far past its glory days. And now it just doesn't exist, you know? Crazy. Cheetah Thunder says Harley and JJ are in great shape, but the greatest shape old school punker is Doyle. Not a fighter, though, as far as I know. Okay. Who would win in a fight? Harley Flanagan or Doyle? Who would win in a fight? Who do you think would win in a fight? All right. Oh man, that's really tough. I think I know my pick. I want to hear what you guys think. Who's going to win the fight between Doyle and Harley Flanagan? Mind you, how tall is Harley and how tall is Doyle, right? How tall is Harley and how tall is Doyle? Let's take a look. Let's see here. I don't know if I could find that out. Doyle height. Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein height. Okay, Doyle is 6'3". Let's see here. Harley Flanagan height. Let's see here. It doesn't say. 5'6", 5'6", something like that. So Doyle's got height and reach, and he's probably weighs more than Harley. They're in two different classes. Okay, ready? I still think Harley would win. I think Harley would mess Doyle up, and I'll tell you why. I feel like Doyle, I think I heard this. Doyle has a back problem. I think that Harley, maybe Doyle would hurt Harley really bad, but I think Harley, in the end, Harley has the stamina over Doyle, and I think eventually Doyle would succumb to Harley. I feel like Harley's just like a little Wolverine, dude. He's like a little Wolverine. I mean, this dude, okay, so check it out. This dude has like, I remember seeing a photo of like Harley, like having, what's it called? He had a hernia, like, you know, he had a hernia like leaking out of his gut, and he just put like duct tape over it and was just like recording. He was still recording. I think he was recording with Steve Zing. And he just like put some blue duct tape and like kept like going like it was no big thing. I just feel like Harley's tolerance for pain and his ability to fight. And mind you, how many fights do you think Doyle has been in? How many fights do you think Harley's been in? Harley has been in a lot of fights. That's got to count for something. I think he would take Doyle in the end, in the very end. I think maybe Doyle, it'll go like this. Maybe Doyle would get him, you know, rough him up, ragdoll him for the first couple of rounds. And then eventually Harley's BJJ training would kick in. Doyle would get tired. And then once Doyle falls to the ground, or Harley's closer to the ground, obviously, that Harley would come in there and just get him. It's easy to say Doyle. It's easy to say Doyle. Let's see what everybody says. Hold on. Archduke says was cool to go to CBGBs in the 80s. Would probably not recognize current NYC. I'll tell you something. It's really sad to walk down St. Mark's today. Okay, Robbie says Doyle. Fidel agrees with me. Flanagan, he just fights because he felt like it. Amy says Doyle is a beast. Doyle got the reach. Jason says, I mean the height. Von Spur, Kevin 45, my friend Kevin says he saw the Bad Brains at CBGB's. Kevin, did you see them with HR? Or did you also see them with John Joseph? And Rollins. Cheetah says, I saw Joey Ramone twice at CBGB circa 99 and 2000. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, Harley is a spaz. I mean, we're talking about people in two different weight classes. Weight classes exist for a reason, but outside of that, I think that Doyle, I don't think Doyle would overcome Harley. I just don't think it. You know what I think the deciding factor would be for Doyle? What kind of stamina does he have versus Harley? Because at the end of the day, Doyle has the power, he has the reach, and he has the height, and he has the weight. But if he gets gassed, Harley would just turn him into mincemeat, I think. Tyler says the biggest pissing contest is when Harley and John talk about their upbringing on different. Yeah, I agree, Tyler. I've seen it too. It's just so goofy. Like trying to prove who had it harder. The only thing I can say from that is that Harley has a sadness about him. I don't know. I haven't read Harley's book yet, and I know he had a really tough life on the streets, and that he dealt with a lot of really dark, grim stuff. But I feel like JJ is always screaming about, oh, I had it harder than Harley. I grew up in the foster system, and P.S. I wrote some books on diet, and I hand out religious literature. I mean, that guy is always talking about the good deeds that he does. If you do good deeds, here's the reality. Here's the reality. This is the honest truth. If you do good deeds and you talk about them on Facebook, they are not good deeds. Okay? A good deed is something that you do privately. Nobody else knows. The moment that you start telling other people about the good deed that you did, it's no longer a good deed. It's not a selfless deed, I should say. It's not selfless because you are now getting something out of it. You are stating what you've done in order so that you will be perceived in a certain way. If you want to do a purely good, selfless deed, do it and then don't talk about it. Don't ever talk about it. Just do it quietly without anybody seeing, and just do it for the sake of doing it. Because when you start talking about it, then it starts to turn into, it becomes convoluted. It dilutes the purity of what you're doing. You know what I mean? And yes, there's something to be said about, setting an example and being like, I do this, you should do it too. And I think there's a humble way to do that. There's a humble way to go about it. But to just post statuses on Facebook about like all the good stuff you do, it doesn't seem like you're, and again, there's like no proof that you've done it. Or you say you've done it and then you just post about it. It's like, why? What is the point of this? The point of this is because you're trying to portray yourself to look a certain way and look really cool. So if you want to do a good deed, just do it, and do it quietly, and don't talk about it to anybody, literally nobody. Because the moment you start telling people about it, it suddenly what are your motivations? Or it turns from doing this thing for the sake of doing it. Integrity. That's what integrity is. Integrity means doing what is it, the thing that you are doing when no one else is watching? It's one of the most important qualities in a human being. Truthfully. He's a professional fighter, talking about Harley. I agree, honestly. Jason, what do you agree with, honestly? I'm sorry, you got to specify there. Harley versus Rollins. I think, okay, so Rollins has also been in a fight. Rollins has been in a lot of fights. We know this. He's definitely a scrapper. I still think I think Harley is at the top of that pile, man. I just think he's at the top of that pile. Even if it was 84, 83, 84 Rollins, you know. And the reason why I say 83 or 84, because it's like he joins Black Flag in 81, and it's like, you know, he gets the tar kicked out of him when he goes to, you know, like I feel like by 83, 84, 85, like he's so road worn and like he's so weary and like so seasoned that like he's probably a great scrapper, Henry Rollins, at that time. Now he's probably more like a house cat, but you know, so would I. I mean, I'm not a fighter at all, so can't really talk. Kevin 45 says Danzig is a real Wolverine. Haha. Cheetah Thunders. Doyle, not a fighter, like I said. In This Music Leaves Stains, there was a story that Macho Man came to a show because he was mad about Gorgeous George. Doyle just booked after the last note. Right. Yes, that is a well-known story. But just to take note that book borrows a lot from a lot of different places. I don't want to take away from the guy presented a narrative. Fine, fair enough. I'm always ragging on this book. I haven't even read it because I was told by other people. It's Misfits Central mostly. It's just Misfits Central, just written as a narrative, and there's no, you know, sources aren't properly cited. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, we do. We need someone to program. I agree, Kevin. We need a hardcore Mortal Kombat type game. That would be good. That would be good. Robbie says, you've seen Doyle throw monster punches while holding a guitar. Imagine him without the guitar. All he needs is one hit. Yes. Okay. That is true. There's something to that. If Doyle got the right hit, but that's the same thing with anything. We've talked about this before, and we talked about, I think when we talked about Danzig, the Danzig video with the Northside Kings guy, all it takes is the right amount of pressure at the right point on your jaw for you to just go down like a sack of bricks, right? Like it's very easy. It's very easy to knock someone out if you get the right punch, but that's assuming that would happen. And again, that's Doyle going up against us mere mortals. You know, I feel like Harley Flanagan is he's just in another class. Harley Flanagan knows how to take a punch. Harley Flanagan could take a punch from Doyle. I think I really do. I mean, he's like this short little, like knot of muscle, Harley Flanagan, you know? And he is very tolerant. He has a high threshold for tolerance and pain. That's got to count for something. So Doyle could probably wail on him, but eventually Doyle is going to just wear out. And then I think Harley would just take him out, man. That's what I think. Even though Doyle had a lot of backup. Sack Piece Benefit says, honestly, I think Doyle would win. I've heard a story or two of Harley getting his ass beat in the 2000s. That's when he was younger too. I don't know, man. I think Harley would take it. I think, you know what? Who really knows? It would be a very interesting fight. Again, two completely different weight classes at the end of the day. Robbie says, Macho Man towers over Doyle, is a professional wrestler, and was coked the hell up. Anyone would shake if Macho Man found out you were effing his wife, a.k.a. that was Gorgeous George. Oh, you're so lucky. Kevin saw the Bad Brains with HR during the final week of shows. That was in October. Cro-Mags might have opened. Wow. That is friggin' lucky. Danzig versus Jerry, who would win? Yeah, hardly sadness. You're right. Okay, that's what you're referring to. Amy says Doyle is a gentle giant. He's a lover, not a fighter. Yeah, man, I feel like Doyle does not have speed. Harley is fast. Harley would be faster. Anastasia, you're right. You're right. Posting good deed is nothing more than creating an image of yourself. Exactly, Archduke. That's what it's all about, man. I told, yes, exactly. Rollins, we did a whole video about Rollins versus Danzig. 1994 Rollins versus 1994 Danzig. That was the year. Go check out that video. It's on this channel. Jason says that Harley would win versus Doyle. It would just, that's what it really, okay. So it comes down to speed and stamina. I don't think strength plays a part. And the reason why is for all the power that Doyle has, I think Harley would just be able to take it. Harley would be able to take he has a high threshold for pain. And I think that eventually after Doyle like started to wear out, or, you know, I mean, he could only bash him for so long before, or how about this? If Harley just gets on his back or something, puts him in a chokehold. And, you know, I mean, listen, I don't know what kind of flexibility Doyle has compared to Harley, but I still think, and you know when I would want to see them fight? I wouldn't want to see them fight back in the day. I'd want to see them fight right now. I want to see, like, how I think I just saw up here, Harley's 55 and Doyle is 64. Doyle is like 58. I want to see 55-year-old Harley versus fight 58-year-old Doyle. Exactly how they are, you know, in their fitness, because they both seem to be really, really, really fit right now. But you know what's funny? Like, you don't see Harley does a lot of grandstanding on his Facebook page and talks about his exploits and things and yada, 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 in a much less annoying way than John Joseph does. But you don't hear Harley talk about working out. And I'm not saying that's because he doesn't do it. I'm saying, like, I feel like it's not something that he needs to talk about. He just does it. You could look at his body, look at how friggin' jacked he is. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not something that he really, like, he doesn't put that on blast, but it's there. And so therefore he's probably at the height of his powers. And we know that Doyle's just like, Doyle's a beast, dude. Man, that's a pay-per-view I would kill to see. Oh my Lord. I mean, you know what else it is too? We're talking about punching. You got to think about grappling. Who's going to win in a grapple? Do you really think that Doyle is going to be able to grapple with Harley? Harley is a grappler. Doyle is not a grappler. If Harley got Doyle to the ground, it would be over, man. He would figure out a way. He'd as people said before, he's feisty. He would just figure out a way to take Doyle out. I honestly think that's the truth, man. It would be interesting to see, though. I'm trying to think if there's anything else for us to cover here. Anastasia says martial arts is explosive strength and endurance sports is a slow twitch. Endurance sports is a slow twitch strength. JJ takes martial arts, but is never training martial arts. Yeah, I don't think JJ's much of a fighter, man. I really don't. I just don't. I think that's an easy fight. And I know that I think JJ has an injury on his leg. I feel like Harley would just take him out, man. Harley would take him out in 2 minutes. That's what would happen. Robbie says, I'm thinking about grappling wrong, though. It's like a spider monkey trying. He says, you're thinking about grappling wrong, though. It's like a spider monkey trying to take down King Kong. Yeah, but like, there's definitely they're definitely closer in weight than a spider monkey and King Kong. I think, okay, all right. If Harley's able to climb, are we really discussing this right now? I can't believe the sentence I'm about to say. If Harley is able to climb up on Doyle's back and get an arm around Doyle's neck and then come down, like pull down with all of his weight, he would bring Doyle down. I really think so. I think, listen, Doyle is strong, but Harley is also exerting force when he's doing this. I don't think Doyle would I don't think Doyle could withstand that. I don't think so. Doyle does have, okay, I once got to shake Doyle's hand and I put and this is not for reference because I am the last person to put in reference in any kind of fighting scenario, but I'm 6 foot. I'm about 6 foot. I'm like 5'11 and a half, really. But I put my hand in Doyle's hand and I shook his hand backstage at the Riot Fest show. And Doyle's hand is so big. It's not a hand, it's like a giant gorilla paw. My whole hand like fit in Doyle's hand when I shook his hand. This rough, like Baroque, I don't know if Baroque is the right word, this rough, raw hand. And it's like, I'm sure if he grabbed Harley Flanagan with that hand, he would ragdoll Harley, but I think Harley could handle it. I think Harley would be okay. He would hold on in some way, shape, or form. Oh, but who's gonna punch Michelle Graves? I mean, isn't he tangled with PB's 1/6 events? Yes, that is very interesting. So it's funny you bring that up, actually. He's always claimed that he was performing for like Latinos for Trump or whatever. But I guess so. First of all, like the Proud Boy, I guess it's come out that the Proud Boys were doing some really organized clandestine stuff for 1/6. Like they were trying to, and all this stuff is going to blow open in a week or two. At least I'm hoping it will with this committee hearing. But what was interesting was, I guess Michael Graves was kind of tied more to that stuff than maybe he had let on. So yeah, I'll be very interested to see how that plays out. If he is indeed tangled, I do know that he did speak to the FBI about that stuff, but I think it was in reference to someone else. Like it wasn't because he was being accused of anything. However, I don't know, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. Well, time will tell. Time will surely tell. I think one thing is for certain, never has someone just destroyed their career so thoroughly by simply proclaiming themselves as a Proud Boy. I mean, that dude destroyed his career. I did a whole video on this 2 years ago for 2 hours about how that dude just like wrecked himself. And here we are 2 years later, and it's like, he's doing like a Christian tour, Christian private touring, Christian private parties, I mean, I hope he's making enough money to provide for his family. It's really sad to me in that kind of way. Oh my God, it's almost midnight. Here I am thinking that this would have been a quick, 45 minutes, hour, and we're talking about Harley Flanagan crawling up Doyle's back and equating it to being like a spider monkey taking down King Kong. But isn't that like, that's the best conversation, right? That's like, you come on with a topic, you try to, you just sort of, you try and find the groove, try to find something fun to talk about, let your imagination run wild until you find something interesting and hilarious. And I don't know. I'm just babbling. Okay. Couple of things coming up tomorrow. By the way, if you enjoy, I don't say this enough, and I'm going to start saying this. If you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing. If you are not subscribed, like this video, leave a comment, check out the Patreon, buy a cup of coffee if you want to support the channel. Same thing with the Patreon. That also helps support this channel. There's a bunch of content that's not on the YouTube channel unless you're a YouTube member or a Patreon member. We also have the YouTube membership program. We have people with Archduke Ramon just joined the Patreon. Not the Patreon, the YouTube membership. Different programs, but very much the same content. There is some content that is exclusive only to Patreon and not to the rest. So check all that stuff out. We got Better Call Saul coming up tomorrow. If you are a Better Call Saul fan, we are going to be, I have a whole slew of guests. I have my friend Bob Rose from Thundergrunt, Jason Horton from Jay Horton, fresh off of directing a horror film called Craving. feature that he just did. My friend Nate Dogg, who's been on a couple of times, we're going to be talking about Better Call Saul, the first half of the final season. And then when the final half of the final season happens, we'll do a follow-up conversation about how they wrapped up the whole thing. Additionally, I am continuing work on a top secret project. I've been talking about it for some time. No, this is not the doc. No, this is not the Black 29 video. This is a secret project that I have been working on, toiling away on for a very, very long time. And I have about 4 or 5 shooting days left. And I'm very excited to hopefully be putting it to bed and making some really big announcements very soon. But I can't until I have to see how things pan out. I can't do it just yet. Additionally, I'm doing the film debacle. 72-hour film debacle, and this is the third one. I love doing it. If you're a YouTube member or a Patreon, you can watch Beyond the Green Hole, which is a short film that I made. Very, very not suitable for work. Okay. And yeah, so we're going to be doing that this week, and going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun. Hey, thank you for showing up, Sack. Really appreciate it. Also, what are my thoughts on the Sex Pistols show as of now? I did a whole review. There's an hour and 40 something minute review about the Pistols show on FX. Go check it out. It's there. Go check it out. Hey, what's up, Rue? Rue says no Peter Steele versus Doyle. What do you think, Rue? Who would win with Harley Flanagan and Doyle? And Peter Steele and Doyle? I think Doyle would take it. I think Doyle would take it. This is a big one. We have Tank is coming back. Tank is coming back. I think it's happening this Sunday. So we have another episode of the Streaming Evil Live show. If you enjoy what the topic that that people love this channel for more than anything, talking Misfits, we're going to be talking a huge chunk of the Misfits history, not with Glenn Danzig. After Glenn Danzig, Tank was there. He saw all of the 90s Misfits stuff happen. Lots of very interesting stories. If you care about that band and it's all of its history, you're not going to want to miss the second part of our Tank series. It's called Grim Tales. We already did the first episode. That's up on the channel. It's a really good one. It's about 3 hours long. So if you need, okay. Rue says Steel all the way. Yow! Steel all the way. Check that out. All right, that's it. That's the end. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we say peace and hair grease. And let me tell you a little bit of something about the Patreon. Check out Better Call Saul tomorrow on this channel. Turn on notifications if they're not turned on. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube Casualty for $6.66. The YouTube Casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos,
music reaction commentaries, and the like a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you!
66 cents.